to ICO Review, and today we're going to be having a look at Faceter. So I wanted to dive in and have a closer look at Faceter while it was fresher in my mind. But in case you missed that one, just to recap, Faceter is a system which makes video surveillance smart by giving eyes to cameras, and that's done through something called computer vision. You've all heard of facial recognition, object detection, and video content analysis in real time. So these combined factors allow the security model to analyze a situation in real time and react accordingly. And of course, by react accordingly, there are a whole bunch of possible outcomes for that quote unquote react accordingly. And that's what's exciting about this platform. You know, the more I think about it, the more I start figuring out ways that you could tweak the software to do, real world tasks, especially in a business sense. With that being said, let's actually go over some potential use cases. So just to quickly appropriate some of their footage, just bear this image in mind for me when we start talking about use cases for this technology. You can see faces being tagged as people pass by the CCTV surveillance camera. So in any given real world situation, if you have a need to identify a given person, this will allow you to do it. So think about it in a security sense. And I think this is something that I didn't jump to immediately, was if you have a nightclub or any building, for instance, but let's say a nightclub, we have, say, regularly violent offending individuals. You apply them to a blacklist and you receive an automatic push notification to all the guards' security devices the moment that person shows up. But let's talk about this tech in a slightly more positive light now. Take, for instance, public transport. Using the CCTV layout of a local train station, for instance, continuous monitoring of passengers or potential passengers, the software pings, there's Jim. So either A, by the time you get to the end of the line, they have your regular ticket ready and waiting for you, or B, you have an integrated app which sends you a push notification and asks you if you are after your usual ticket. The point is time arbitrage when we're talking about service, when we're talking about transport. So again, think about your local cafe, software pings, bang, that's Jim, loads up the preferences for your normal coffee or whatever it is that you might be getting. But then we can start looking at things like, direct marketing tactics. For instance, individual walks into an electronics store and instead of having to go through the long process of trying to ascertain a customer's needs, it's going to be a hell of a lot easier for the system to curtail a response as to what the person may be there to achieve. Just that little bit more data that the system can then send a push notification to sales staff or bring up on a computer at a checkout or something like that. So there are service applications here, and that would be incorporating, of course, big data if we were going to be doing direct sales tactics. But now perhaps my imagination is getting away from me. But I imagine that using the object detection functions that were brought on by pay cards and that project being successful in the early days of this team, you could say, take a retail establishment that already has this software integrated and analyze the environment for an emergency situation. Object recognition, it may be able to ping, large objects that aren't in their usual location or fallen debris, etc., which then gives a analytical report to the emergency services attending the scene, therefore allowing a greater chance of success for actually rescuing the people trapped in the store. But again, that could just be me grasping at straws. I'm just letting my imagination, try and figure out what else we can use this software for, because frankly, that's the brilliance of this thing. They've put together a framework and now it can be curtailed by further development or by other development teams that can adopt and implement this awesome concept. But we should talk about the actual token use. And it's lovely to see an ICO that doesn't have a token for the sake of a token. This entire ecosystem here, the entire Faceter ecosystem relies on this token. So first of all, the way Faceter proposes to process all of this information on the blockchain is actually by leveraging existing Ethereum mining rigs. Powerful GPUs will perform whole tasks and tasks can also be segmented out to smaller section GPUs for that data to be then reconfigured on the blockchain. And the advantage of people switching their GPUs over to the Faceter network is a greater rewards, which is paid for. Allegedly, the rewards for creating Faceter nodes is greater than just standard Ethereum mining. So of course, the payments for having a Faceter node is settled in the Faceter token, but then the token itself is also used as a fuel for obtaining licenses to provide services, i.e. licensing your video data must carry a key linked to the Faceter token. Forgive me for having to read that. So you can see a brief diagram here of what's going on. So if you're a business and you want to utilize your surveillance feed in the Faceter software, you of course need to pay licensing. The license can only be paid for in the Faceter token. Upon payment for the license, the token is actually burnt, generating a license API, I imagine, which is then attached to your video feed data. I hope I'm doing that justice. So there's actually a continuous burn and repurchase of tokens. So given the fact that Faceter tokens are going out to miners, but then are also having to be held and then burnt by the retailer or by the customer that wants to license out their feed. So those two demands actually create a circulating ecosystem for the Faceter token, and therefore a relatively strong use case given adoption. In terms of the product, there's a lot of video out there, and in fact I just showed a video of what seems to be either like a prototype or an alpha, but I can't find anywhere where I can actually run a demo of it, so it must be alpha stage. The team itself are involved in a successful product called Pay Cards, which was, instead of using PayPass on your phone or sticking with your credit card, it's technology that can take a picture of a credit card in very minimal time, which then uploads every single bit of relevant data, so card number, expiries, etc., which then lets you communicate the relevant data from your credit card for purchasing without triggering anything that could be a potential security risk, like inputting your data into an interface or like putting your card number onto a web page. In the case of pay cards, it is actually image data that is unpacked and hopefully encrypted, but the lack of input, the lack of user input there makes fraudulent activity much more difficult. So as far as I'm concerned, that qualifies the team to be trying to do what they're doing here. And finally, let's have a look at ICO dates. ICO happening on the 15th, and they're accepting payment in Ethereum, Bitcoin, Litecoin, Ripple, Dash, NEM, Monero, and Bitcoin Cash. So they should be relatively accessible regardless of who you are. Pre-sale registration is closed with over 8,000 registrations. Pre-sale token will only be sold to whitelisted accounts. New contributors can now submit a request to reserve tokens for main token sale. If pre-sale is already closed out with that amount of interest, I would highly recommend registering for the main token sale event for sure. And of course, remembering that one face token equals 10 cents USD roughly. So it's a really reasonably priced token. And if they hit their hard cap, it will give them in and around 40 million. So plenty of room for growth on the market as well. But I think I've covered off on everything for this one for now. If this is your first time hearing about Faceter, let me know what you think about the potential use cases in the comments section below. I'm really eager to watch these guys, and I'll definitely be keeping up with the news and covering them in the future. Anyway, I have been your crypto enthusiast, and I'll see you in the next video.